Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session on reading comprehension. Let me tell you, my dear friends, these days, reading comprehension has become a comprehensive part of every standard recruitment process. See, these days, most of the engineering graduates are looking for campus placements, and a lot of engineering colleges are looking to get their engineering graduates, through campus jobs. However, there are also a lot of competitive exams which often have this component called reading comprehension. Let me briefly explain to you what is this reading comprehension and how do you need to build this skill of reading comprehension. Uh, Frankly speaking, reading comprehension is a simple technique. It's a very simple technique which you require to understand and develop in yourself. Reading is different from comprehending. Reading a paragraph or reading a passage. Say, for example, you read an article, or probably you read a paragraph talking about a particular concept or an object. So, reading is completely different. Reading is related to your speed of reading, or probably your style, or your accent, your pronunciation, or your intonation. All those things are a part of reading. But comprehend means understand. So probably one might read a paragraph for fun, just for the style of reading it, just to check his style of reading English. But when it comes to understanding the concept, that's completely different. So remember, reading comprehension is a concept wherein you need to read a paragraph, understand the meaning of, if not every word, at least every line of the paragraph, and try to comprehend what this particular paragraph talks about. And I'm going to now give you a few more steps, a few more ways through which you can build your reading comprehension skills. Here we go. So there are 6 steps to build your reading comprehension. So the first one is, I would highly recommend that you develop the habit of reading practice. I would highly recommend probably you every day develop that habit of reading English newspaper. Let me ask you, these days, how many of you really have that habit of reading newspaper? Very few of us do have that habit. So I would highly recommend that you read newspaper, English newspaper preferably, every day for about 15 to 20 minutes. That helps you to build your pronunciation and your understanding of different articles, English articles and paragraphs. So daily reading practice will make you more perfect when it comes to understanding this, building your skill of reading comprehension. Second steps through which you can build your comprehension skills is check for understanding. It's not just reading a newspaper or reading a news article or reading a paragraph talking about an object or describing an event, anything of that sort, but you should be able to understand it. As I mentioned earlier, you should be able to understand what a particular paragraph is trying to convey to the reader. So understanding the concept of the passage or of a paragraph or of an article is very, very crucial when it comes to building your reading comprehension skills. The third thing is make connections. Establish, as you read different paragraphs of a particular article, try to establish connection between every paragraph. Okay, what is the connection between the first paragraph and the second one and the third one and the fourth one? So if you are able to establish and connect all these paragraphs well, you will be able to develop a visual picture of what the particular passage is talking about. So the fourth one is create a visual. As you keep reading this particular article or a passage, make sure you should have that visual running before your eyes, just like a movie. How every slide gets connected. And it should move like a movie, like a theatrical trailer of a movie. It should be able to move. So every slide should be able to get connected. So which means you should understand every line of the paragraph comprehensively. Only then you will be able to deliver the best of it. So try to establish a visual picture of what you're trying to read. The best way to build your comprehension skills. And the fifth step towards building your comprehension skills is make inferences and predictions. Sometimes it's not just that you try to read it and take it literally as it is there, but try to infer from the passage, try to imagine what the passage is trying to talk about. Try to predict what could that particular situation be. What could be the mental status of the writer of the paragraph or of the passage or of that particular article. Next, the sixth one is fix any type of confusion. Remember, we do have a lot of confusion sometimes. As you go through every line of the passage, you might get a lot of confusions. So make sure, if you do not understand, read twice or thrice. Try to fix what are the confusions you have, and probably refer to the dictionaries if possible, or probably online dictionaries to understand some of the words. But let me tell you, very practically speaking, when it comes to online tests or competitive exams or campus recruitment tests, you will not get much of a time to understand, or much of time is not allotted for this concept to understand deeply or read it 2-3 times the paragraph. You will not get so much of time. So the best thing is developing this habit of reading newspaper and understanding it. So I would highly recommend, especially for the graduates, the younger graduates, especially for the engineering graduates who keep looking for excellent career opportunities, develop a habit of reading English newspaper, which undoubtedly will help you to build not only your communication skills but also your linguistic ability when it comes to attempting online tests, or when it comes to cracking competitive exams. Are we clear? So these are the 6 steps through which it's simple way to understand, through which probably you will be able to crack, or you'll be able to understand what a comprehension means and how you need to handle it. If you guys are ready, let's check out a few paragraphs and the questions that are given below it. We'll try to answer them also. That will provide us a crystal clear understanding of how we could handle it. And this particular paragraphs which we're going to talk about are very important paragraphs, because these are sample paragraphs which I have taken it from several companies' recruitment process tests. Okay, say for example, we have companies like Wipro, we have also what you call Cognizant, we have Emphasis, we have Infosys. So most of these companies often have a component like this called reading comprehension, which is a part of verbal ability you should be able to understand. If you guys are ready, here we go. Take a look at this passage. I'll read it for you, and read it, just follow me carefully. In response to recent rise in gas prices, we are once again hearing calls for the government to do something to force prices lower. But no matter what the price of gasoline is, such calls are wrong. All market fluctuations in the price of gasoline, up or down, are a good thing and none of the government's business. So just this is the first paragraph of the entire article. And what does this paragraph talk about? So I'm sure you can easily guess it by reading the first paragraph of the article itself. You should be able to understand what are the rest of the paragraphs going to convey to us. So this passage talks primarily about the importance of rising in gas prices, the cooking gas prices. And let's see what's happening in the next passage. In the realm of business, a higher price means that firms will only purchase oil or gasoline to the extent that they can make profitable use of it at those prices. An efficient airline will still be able to offer low prices while using high-priced jet fuel. A less efficient airline may not be able to. A company in China or India that uses oil to run highly efficient factories can make profitable use of oil at $70 a barrel. Their laggard competitors may not be able to. So in this particular paragraph, we are trying to talk about how what you call gas prices differ from one country to another. Probably in India and China, we might probably be able to offer gases or cooking gases, or because the oil prices as we have it much lesser, might be able to offer it much lesser. But whereas in other countries it is not the case. That's what the paragraph talks about. Let's see the next passage. There is no moral or economic justification justification for any politician or consumer to declare market prices too high or to use the government to force lower prices. Doing so violates both the rights of gasoline producers and their productive customers to set voluntary prices and thus causes destructive shortages. So what happens is, the paragraph the writer is trying to say that a customer has no right to set a higher price or lower price for gases in the market, because not the government should be forced by the common people to set higher lower, because once the government says you should reduce the prices, government, I mean, if it if it instructs or if it wants the gas producing companies to produce or to sell or to make the gas available at a lower prices, I am sure they would cause a lot of shortage in terms of producing the gas. So they have their own techniques. So what the paragraph is trying to say, the customer has no right to influence the market prices of a gas. Yes, so in this we are going to talk about the government is right in taking action if an oil company probably threatens or harms a person's property, but impose huge costs on oil companies and their customers in the name of preserving untouched nature is unconsiderable. What should the government do about gasoline prices? Get its hands out of the market and keep them off. So I think this is the last paragraph of the total passage or of the total article. So let's move on to understand how this paragraph is all about. Just try to establish a connection. The total, almost I think we have seen it in 4 slides. The entire passage talks about increase in the gas prices, and it also says that the customer has no right to demand for high or lowering of the price of oils or gases. Nor does the government have, because if the government also tries to force the gas producing or the oil producing companies, they have their own way of causing shortage of oils or causing shortage of gas. So that's the reason even government has no right in terms of deciding the price in the oil markets. So the best way is that the government should stay out of this market and keep their hands off and let the markets in terms of international market decide what the price would be. So if you guys are ready, let's check out a few questions based on this passage. The first question is, yes. The first question is, how do high oil prices affect companies? There are options, 4 options given here. Efficient companies can make profitable use of these prices. Inefficient factories are provided subsidies by the government. It provides stability for the fluctuating market. There is a marginal effect on profits. So the answer is option A. How do high oil prices affect companies? Efficient companies can make profitable use of these prices. So oil prices affect companies a lot. Yes. So next question, what is the meaning of the laggard? So what is the meaning of the word laggard, which has been used in the paragraph? So the answer is laggard means move or respond slowly. So that's what we talked about. So third question is, what is the conflict regarding market fluctuation in prices? What is the conflict regarding market fluctuations in prices? The conflict is the 4th one here. The market is suffering with the government's future plans of control. Yes, so option D is the correct one. Let's move on with the 4th question. Why should the government not intervene in lowering prices? Why is not the government able to put its fingers into, suggesting or probably ordering the oil companies to do so? The reason is the rights of producers will be violated with the intervention. So option B is the correct one. The rights of producers will be violated with the intervention. So which means the governments are not supposed to intervene into any of the decisions made by the producers, the oil producers or the gas producers. That's what it talks about. Let's move on with another passage. So in this passage, I'm sure this passage is going to talk something different from what we have seen in the first passage. Let's check out this passage. Personal development is a pursuit of developing, honing and mastering the skills that help us become the best that we can. With all that we have, it is the reaching for and the realizing of our full potential as human beings. We all want to live full, productive lives, but sometimes we just don't know where to begin. There is no such information out there, that it can be overwhelming and hard to sort. Depending on the problem, what seems to work for one person may not necessarily work for everyone. There are so many different programs, strategies and techniques that it is hard to choose the right one. So I'm sure you have already been able to understand what this passage is talking about. Okay, this first paragraph of this particular article is trying to highlight the importance of building the skills of every human being, because we should be able to build our skills, and how we need to not just building our skills, how we should be able to use our skills, or probably sometimes mastering our skills to use it for the development of the society. And the passage is also trying to say that all people are not having the same skills. Okay, what are the skills that we are given by God, or what are the skills that we have developed, we should be able to use it to our fullest extent so that the society gets benefited. And the passage is also trying to say that all people are not different. Each one is uniquely talented or skillful. Let's see what the next passage talks about. One thing, however, is certain. If we want to accomplish anything in life and realize our full potential, we must have some skills. In this case, life skills. You begin by establishing a firm foundation. That foundation is you. You must know who you are and what you want and what you are capable of. You must then determine which values, goals and principles you will set up to guide your actions. So in this passage, the author is trying to express that you should be able to build your skills, and primarily the best way to build your skills is to build your life skills, the skills which you are supposed to have. Okay, that's what has been clearly mentioned here. You should have some skills in this life skills which are very, very important. So you begin by establishing a firm foundation. That foundation is you. So who is the major foundation for building your life skills? It's you. It's not someone else from the outside, because you are the foundation. You should decide yourself to build your skills. No one else can help you to build your skills. The others can only show you the path, but you have to walk yourself, as there's a saying in English, right? So we can take the horse to the pond, we can't make it drink. So probably people like me, the trainers, or probably the professors can help you, can guide you to take the right path, to build your skills in the proper platform. But ultimately it's you who has to create that foundation and build yourself the required skills, values and principles. Let's move on. Often the hardest part in any endeavor is getting started. However, once you do, there is a surprising snowball effect. You will begin to feel good about what you are doing, and you will want to continue. You will want to keep improving yourself, and you will want to become the best that you can be. As you continue on the journey of personal development, you will become aware that there is so much knowledge and information to be discovered and uncovered than you ever thought possible. Knowledge about yourself, knowledge about others, knowledge about life and the world around you. So which means when it comes to building your life skills, or the so-called, in the latest market, people are using another term called soft skills or life skills. So when you're trying to build your life skills or soft skills, it is you. Okay, it is you who have to become the foundation of it, and it is you who keep understanding or building knowledge about yourself, about others, about the world around you. Okay, let's move on to the next paragraph. Yes. The good news is that acquiring essential life skills will not only contribute to your personal growth and development, it will make you a more interesting and dynamic individual. What good is all the financial success in the world if you don't have self-confidence and high self-esteem? Know who you really are, what you want, or what you are doing here. We have all witnessed many outwardly successful and famous people who have not been able to find personal happiness. No amount of fame or fortune could fill the void they felt inside. So in this paragraph, what it's trying to say is, so building life skills is very, very essential. Life skills very especially like your confidence or self-esteem or the power to achieve, because how much ever the money you earn, that's of no use unless you are a guy with high levels of confidence and high levels of self-esteem. That's what this paragraph talks about. I think this passage is the last paragraph of this passage of this article. Let's check out a few questions and try to answer them. Yes, here is the question. Why are life skills essential for personal growth? Why are life skills essential for personal growth? So pick up the right answer based on the passage that you have already read. It is important to acquire skills that can help one fit into the society. Growth of an individual is incomplete without proper skills and manners. One can be happy by acquiring life skills, but not measuring success. Not by measuring success. These skills highlight the negative aspects of a personality. So why are life skills essential for personal growth? Growth of an individual is incomplete without proper skills and manners. So how much of money you earn without proper, skills and manners, your life becomes incomplete. Or one can be happy by acquiring life skills, not by measuring success. Fine. C could also be the correct answer, but it's not about just being happy, but it's about building your skills as an individual. So therefore, probably B is the most appropriate answer for this. Let's move on to the next question. Yes, question is, what can you infer from the term snowball effect? So we came across this word snowball effect. This is a phrase we came across in the paragraph. So what is the meaning? So the meaning is downward. So let's check out the options. Downward trends such as feeling low about oneself are observed in people, or to pursue knowledge and improve oneself. Excess of knowledge can confuse a person. Improving life skills requires tremendous effort and determination. So the correct answer is option B, to pursue knowledge and improve oneself. So what can you infer from the term snowball effect? Snowball effect is nothing but to pursue knowledge and to improve oneself. Yes. So here the third question is, which of the following best describes the foundation? The word foundation, which we happen to come across in the passage. So which best suits or describes the meaning of the foundation? So I'll reveal the answer. The answer is option C, discover yourself and your qualities. So foundation is nothing but discovering yourself and the skills or the qualities that you are blessed with by God himself. Let's move on to the fourth question. So what problems can we face in the beginning of personality development? So at the beginning of your personality development, what are the problems we come across? So option A is abundance of problems makes it difficult to deal with them. Option B, personality has various sides which are difficult to comprehend. And option C, there is no proper channel through which one can learn about personality. And option D is different methods available to help us may not work effectively for all. So what problems can we face in the beginning of personality development? Remember, there are a lot of ways through which you can develop your personality. But however, all methods will not be able to help everyone. Different methods available to help us may not work effectively for all. So, say for example, we have so many methods, but all methods may not work equally for everybody. For some people, some methods, for a few others, because they have a different way of thinking. The personalities, characteristics are different. Their attitudes are different. Their attributes are different. Therefore, it might differ. So, the perfect answer is option D. So, if you guys are done with it, let's move on to the next paragraph. Passage about the Kingdom of Spain. Yes, the Kingdom of Spain was created in 1492 with the unification of the Kingdom of Castile and the Kingdom of Aragon. For the next 3 centuries, Spain was the most important colonial power in the world. It was the most powerful state in Europe and the foremost global power during the 16th century and the greater part of the 17th century. Spain established a vast empire in the Americas, stretching from California to Patagonia, and colonies in the Western Pacific. So this passage is going to talk about the Kingdom of Spain, how vast it was, okay, how powerful it was, because the Kingdom of Spain was created in 1492 with the unification of different other kingdoms, smaller kingdoms like Castile and Kingdom of Aragon. Later, for about next 3 centuries, the kingdom was completely spread its power across the world and has become one of the most influential colonial powers in the world. That's what the paragraph talks about. Let's move on. Yes, Spain's European wars, however, led to economic damage, and the latter part of the 17th century saw a gradual decline of power under an increasingly neglectful and inept Habsburg regime. The decline culminated in the War of the Spanish Succession, where Spain's decline from the position of a leading Western power to that of a secondary one was confirmed, although it remained the leading colonial power. So, in this paragraph, we are trying to understand the Spain's, how Spain has become one of the most powerful kingdoms in the entire European continent, and there were a lot of wars that were also fought against, very especially in the 17th century. But however, in the 17th century, at the end of the 17th century, the gradual decline of power of Spain happened here, and the War of Spanish Succession, where Spain's decline from the position of a leading Western power. So slowly, in the 17th century's end, almost, the Spain has started decreasing or declining its power as as one of the most influential colonial powers in European country. 18th century. The 18th century saw a new dynasty, the Bourbons, which directed considerable effort towards the institutional renewal of the state, with some success peaking in a successful involvement in the American War of Independence. So slowly by the 17th century, the Spain kingdom has declined, and there is another new dynasty, a new a family of kings that have come up. That's called the Bourbons. So in the 18th century, the Bourbons became very popular. I'm sure when you hear this word Bourbon, you might also be tempted because there is a cookie by the same name. Okay, there's a biscuit, Bourbons. Okay, Bourbon biscuits. You might have heard about. It's not by I think it's by Britannia. Fine. So I think this particular dynasty, Bourbon Dynasty, became popular in the 18th century. By the end of 17th century, as the Spanish kingdom has declined. Yes, the end of the 18th and the start of the 19th centuries saw turmoil unleashed throughout Europe by the French Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars, which finally led to a French occupation of much of the continent, including Spain. This triggered a successful but devastating war of independence that shattered the country and created an opening for what would ultimately be the successful independence of Spain's mainland American colonies. Yes, so in this paragraph we are talking about how Spain has the downfall of Spain, and even the Bourbons have slowly taken the back seat. So by the end of 18th century, the start of the 19th century saw turmoil unleashed throughout Europe by French revolutionaries. So by the beginning of the 19th century, there is a lot of revolution in France, okay, in the entire Europe, especially the French became very, very powerful. The Napoleon Wars were very popular, okay. So let's see what happened. Following a period of growing political instability in the early 20th century, in the 1936, Spain was plunged into a bloody civil war. The war ended in a nationalist dictatorship led by Francisco Franco, which controlled the Spanish government until 1975. Yes, so in this last few lines of the paragraph passage, we are trying to understand how how this civil war rose in Spain in 1936, and at the end of the civil war, this nationalist dictatorship. There was dictatorship by Francisco Franco, which controlled the Spanish government until 1975. So the entire passage talks about the civil war that happened in Spain, and how in the beginning of the 17th century Spain was a powerful nation. It's powerful what they call kingdom, because it is not just one kingdom. It is a combination of two other countries. So it's three countries formed together as one kingdom called Spain. And later it spread its wings and became one of the most powerful kingdoms in the world, very especially in Europe. But however, when it came to 18th century, slowly the power of Spain has declined. The Bourbons became more powerful. When it came to 19th century, even the Bourbons have also disappeared, and the downfall of Spain was much crucial. And slowly there were a lot of civil wars, there were a lot of fights, there were a lot of French revolutions. So this is what the passage talks about. Let's move on to understand, try to attempt a few questions based on the passage. Yes, what is the result of Napoleonic Wars? So the result was option B, Spain was occupied by the French. So it's already said, in fact, in the passage where we saw about it, because of the Napoleonic Wars, the Spain was completely occupied, the French Revolution or the Napoleonic Wars. So what happened was the Spain's downfall occurred, and the French occupied the Spanish kingdom. Okay, so option B. What is the meaning of the term culminated? So culminated means option C, reach the highest point. So other options also you can check out: follow a particular path, or guide, or transform, or introduce on a grand scale. The perfect option is reach the highest point. That's called culminated, option C. Yes, what is the summary of the passage? So summary of the passage is option C, the history of Spain. So in fact, the rise and fall of a national empire, or the downfall of successive regimes in Spain, or Spain in 18th century. The history of Spain, how Spain became a popular country, a popular kingdom, how it had its own ups and downs. That's what he talked about, because it's not about just one century. It happened over consecutive centuries. It started in 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th century. It has spread across this. So this is the history of the Spain. What occurred in the later part of the 17th century? So option D is the correct one. So what occurred in the later part of the 17th century? Power steadily declined under Habsburg regime. Okay, Habsburg. So that's what we talked about in the passage we talked about. The power of Spain steadily declined under Habsburg regime. So Habsburg, who was then the ruler of Spain. Yes. So next passage. Management is a set of processes that can keep a complicated system of people and technology to run smoothly. The most important aspects of management include planning, budgeting, organizing, staffing, controlling, and problem solving. So what is the paragraph going to talk about? Undoubtedly, with these few lines, you should be able to understand. It's all about, the passage is going to talk about the importance of management, okay, and the different components of management, as we have seen. So different components of management are planning, budgeting, organizing, staffing, controlling, and problem solving. Yes. Leadership is a process. Leadership is a set of processes that creates organizations in the first place, or adapts them to significantly changing circumstances. Leadership defines what the future should look like, aligns people with that vision, and inspires them to make it happen despite the obstacles. This distinction is absolutely crucial for our purposes here. Successful transformation is 70 to 90% leadership and only 10 to 30% management. Yet, for historical reasons, many organizations don't have much leadership, and almost everyone thinks about the problem here as one of the managing change. So in this paragraph, we are talking about leadership. The author is trying to talk about leadership, and he says it is 70 to 90%. It is the leadership which causes a lot of change, a lot of improvement or development or destruction of an organization. It's only just hardly 10 to 30% which involves the management concept, or the concept of management, or the skill of management. but 70 to 90% it is the leadership which influences the way an organization works. Yes, for most of this country, as we created thousands and thousands of large organizations for the first time in human history, we didn't have enough good managers to keep all those bureaucracies functioning. Many companies and universities developed management programs, and hundreds and thousands of people were encouraged to learn management on the job. And they did. But people were taught little about leadership. So what happened for so many years in different countries, many companies and universities developed management programs, and companies and organizations tried to develop a lot of management programs, organize a lot of training sessions on this, but they never, taught about how to build leadership skills. So as in the last time we speak about, but people were taught little about leadership. So in fact, most of the organizations are not giving much of importance for building leadership skills. They're only what you call giving importance for getting things done through a process called management. So leadership skills are very important. That's what this passage talks about. To some degree, management was emphasized because it's easier to preach than leadership. So management is all about preaching, but leadership is all about acting. So action is leadership. Preaching is all about management. But even more so, management was the main item on the 20th century agenda because that's what was needed. For every entrepreneur or business builder who was a leader, we needed hundreds of managers to run their ever-growing enterprises. Unfortunately for us today, this emphasis on management has often been institutionalized in corporate cultures that discourage employees from learning how to lead. Ironically, past successes is usually the key ingredient in producing this outcome. So this is talking about trying to highlight what you call the difference between the management and the leadership. Okay, so yeah, the passage says management is all about just preaching or insisting something to be done, whereas leadership is all about building entrepreneurship skills, influencing building the business, or putting one's heart and soul in developing an organization. It means leadership is all about action, and management is all about just words and preaching. Yes, in this paragraph, the syndrome, as I have observed it on many occasions, goes like this. Success creates some degree of marked dominance, which in turn produces much growth. After a while, keeping the ever larger organization under control becomes the primary challenge. So attention turns inward and managerial competencies are nurtured, with a strong emphasis on management, but not leadership. Bureaucracy and an inward focus take over. But with continued success, the result mostly of market dominance, the problem often goes unaddressed and an unhealthy arrogance begins to evolve. All of these characteristics then make any transformation effort much more difficult. Arrogant managers can over-evaluate their current performance and competitive position, listen poorly, and learn slowly. So this paragraph is all talking about the negative components or the negative characteristics of just management, and not insisting upon, if you insist too much upon what you call management alone, people will tend to develop bureaucratic styles, or what you call they become more arrogant, and finally arrogant leadership is of no use for the organization, or rather it leads to poor performance in the organization. Yes, inwardly focused employees can have difficulty seeing the very forces that present threats and opportunities. Bureaucratic cultures can smother those who want to respond to shifting conditions, and the lack of leadership leaves no force inside these organizations to break out the morass. Let's check out the questions. Why did companies and universities develop programs to prepare managers in such large numbers? So most companies and universities that especially we talk about the MBAs and all these things. So what happens? They're trying to insist upon developing programs for managers. Different management styles, management processes they're trying to develop. But so why did those universities and companies insist upon that? The reason was, as the paragraph says, the large number of organizations were created as they needed managers in good number. So the reason why universities and companies were trying to insist upon management and less on leadership is because they required more of managers. A large number of organizations were created as they needed managers in good numbers, because they wanted more managers and less leaders. That's the reason universities and companies were insisting upon creating only managers. Manager is someone who just preaches, or probably who carries whatever is being given to him. Okay, he's not someone who takes independently decisions. He's not someone who acts creatively. So he's not action oriented. Okay, he's just guided by someone else, and he acts. Which of the following characteristics helps an organization in its efforts to transform? So option A, emphasis on leadership and not management. Which of the following characteristics helps? So kindi A, which characteristics help the organization in its efforts to transform? Emphasis on leadership and not management. So management is not that important. Leadership is important, and companies or the organization that give more importance for leadership have always developed tremendously. And those companies which have insisted upon only management have their process or their growth has been very slowed down. So the next passage, I think this is going to be the last passage for us. The impressive recent growth of certain sectors of the Indian economy is a necessary but insufficient condition for the elimination of extreme poverty. In order to ensure that the poorest benefit from this growth and also contribute to it, the expansion and improvement of the microfinance sector should be a national priority. Studies suggest that the impact of microfinance on the poorest is greater than on the poor, and yet another that non-participating members of communities which microfinance operates experience socio-economic gains, suggesting strong spillover effects. So what does this passage talk about? This passage talks about microfinance sector. Okay, so microfinance organizations like small banks. Microfinance is nothing but small banks, like we have cooperative banks, or we have some private sectors like say for example private banks like Bajaj Finance. Okay, so smaller banks which are aimed at providing smaller amount of loans, or which handle smaller financial transactions, unlike the bigger banks like SBI or ICICI, such kind of things. And so the smaller things, they are called microfinance sector. So the paragraph is talking about microfinance. Well, let's see. Moreover, well-managed microfinance institutions, MFIs, have shown a capacity to wean themselves off of subsidies and become sustainable within a few years. Microfinance is powerful, but it is clearly no panacea. Microfinance does not directly address some structural problems facing Indian society and the economy. It is not yet as efficient as it will be when economies of scale are realized and a more supportive policy environment is created. Loan products are still too inflexible, and savings and insurance services that the poor also need are not widely available due to regulatory barriers. Still, microfinance is one of the few market-based, scalable, anti-poverty solutions that is in place in India today, and the argument to scale it up to meet the overwhelming need is compelling. According to Sadhan, the overall outreach is 6.5 million families, and the sector-wide loan portfolio is rupees 2,500 crores. So the entire passage so far has been talking about the importance of microfinance and how microfinance sector is playing a key role in the building of the national's economic system, and the kind of problems that microfinance organizations are facing, the barriers or the problems that are faced has been discussed so far. Let's see what's I think the passage continues. Yes. However, this is meeting only 10% of the estimated demand. Importantly, new initiatives are expanding the success story to some of the country's poorest regions, such as eastern and central Uttar Pradesh. The local and national governments have an important role to play in ensuring the growth and improvement of microfinance. First and foremost, the market should be left to set interest rates, not the state, ensuring transparency and full disclosure of rates including fees, is something the government should ensure, and something that new technologies as well as reporting and data standards are already enabling. Okay, so in this slide we are talking about how local and national governments are playing an important role in ensuring the growth and improvement of the microfinance, and however the kind of policies that are introduced, to what extent they are helping or not, is going to be discussed in the next slide. Furthermore, government regulators should set clear criteria for allowing MFIs to mobilize savings for non-lending to the poor. This would allow for a large measure of financial independence almost amongst well-managed MFIs. Each Indian state should consider forming a multi-party working group to meet with the microfinance leaders and have a dialogue with them about how the policy environment could be made over supportive and to clear up misperceptions. There is an opportunity to make a real dent in hardcore poverty through microfinance. By unleashing the entrepreneurial talent of the poor, we will slowly but surely transform India in ways we can only begin to imagine today. Questions here. Which of the following is not a challenge faced by microfinance in India? Well, the answer is option A. Microfinance does not help the poorest. It helps the poor people but not the poorest of the society. The reason is microfinance organizations also look for repayment, whereas the poorest of the poor in India do not pay back. So which means the biggest challenge faced by microfinance is they cannot help the poorest of the society. So which of the following is correct with regard to microfinance? So with regard to the microfinance, as far as microfinance is related, which statement is correct? The supply is more than demand, the demand is more than supply, the supply and demand are well balanced. None of these can be inferred from the passage. The answer is option B. The demand is more than supply. So which means there are many people who are interested to take loans and financial support from these banks, but very few microfinance organizations are available or are existing in India. So as per the paragraph, so option B is the right one. So let's move on to the next question. Which of the following will the author agrees to? It's not free, it's agree. Okay. Which of the following will the author agree to? So which statement out of the four options here? Indian economic growth will solve the problem of poverty. Indian economic growth is not enough to solve the problem of poverty. Indian economic growth aggravates the problem of poverty. None of these. The option is option B. Indian economic growth is not enough to solve the problem of poverty. Next question. What is the author's view about interest rate? So these microfinance organizations are using certain interest. They are imposing certain interest on the loans that they are lending to the poor people in the society. Probably the lower middle class and the middle class people often avail loans from these micro institutions, financial institutions. So what is the author's view about the interest rate imposed by MFIs, microfinance institutions? So option is option E, both B and C. So what is B and C? B and C is there should be transparency with regard to them, and the market forces should set them. So it is option B and C. So well friends, this brings us to the end of today's session on reading comprehension. I am sure you have understood the session effectively. It's not about, I just want to conclude the session with one statement. Remember, the best way to build effective knowledge on this concept of reading comprehension is to develop the habit of reading. Reading English books, reading English articles, English novels, or probably the best way is develop the habit of reading English newspapers. When you read English newspapers, you will understand them comprehensively, and your reading capacity will improve, your vocabulary will improve, and your comprehension skills will improve. And undoubtedly, that will make you a more fluent communicator, an effective presenter, and no doubt you can easily crack any online test of any standard company's recruitment process. These particular questions or this particular concept of reading comprehension is not useful only for the campus recruitment of engineering graduates, but this kind of concept is highly effective or highly what you call used by organizations like banking sectors when they are conducting what you call tests to recruit their employees. Okay, even competitive exams for the companies. Okay, by government organization, public sector, they also use this particular concept of campus recruiter. What you call? I'm sorry about this reading comprehension. So I hope you have understood this concept very well. Thanks for listening to this statement, listening to this presentation effectively. Keep watching, stay happy, and always try to build your skills, because today your skills are the ones which are going to make you an effective leader or an achiever in life. Thanks a lot. Yours, Rajkumar. Bye-bye.